Alright, hey everybody. I promised you a video, so here we go. Let's get through this first problem. We are trying to get denominators to be the same, so since nothing here is the same, and we can't factor anything, we're going to cross multiply. So you're going to multiply the right by x minus 5 and the left by x plus 5. And now you can put everything underneath one common denominator, which we call the least common denominator, or the LCD. So now we will distribute. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 5 is 35. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. So now just combine like terms. And we wind up getting 10x, because our like terms are 3x and 7x, plus 20, because 35 and negative 15 is 20. Alright, you do not have to factor this, because you only factor when you know you can cross things out top to bottom. Alright, next one. We have a 6 and we have a 4, so we're going to cross multiply up here with 6. And cross multiply here with 4. So we have a common denominator of 6 times 4. So when we distribute, we get 4a minus 8. Now remember, this becomes a negative 6. So it's negative 6 times a, which is negative 6a, and negative 6 times negative 7, which is 42. Now combine your like terms, which gives you negative 2a, and negative 8 plus 42 gives you positive 34. Okay? Now that's all over 24, because 6 times 4 is 24. So now if you notice, each of my terms is divisible by 2, which means I can divide all of these by 2. So that's what I'm going to do to reduce it. And when we reduce it, we get an answer of negative a plus 17 over 12. So make sure to always reduce to your lowest terms. Alright, next one we have a 2x and a 3x, and that's what we'll do. Cross multiply. So then we put everything under one denominator of 2x times 3x. So now when we distribute, we get 3x, not 3x, but 6x squared minus 9x. And remember, now this becomes a negative 2x. So negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared, and negative 2x times 8 is 16x. Now put that all under one denominator of 6x squared, and now we combine our like terms, which is 4x squared, and negative 9 plus 16x is 7x. Now if you notice, looking at this answer, they all have an x in common, which means you can divide everything by x. Remember, you always want to reduce it to lowest terms. So since we can divide everything by x, our answer will be 4x plus 7 over 6x. Now these are a little different. All of these problems you should factor first, factor the denominators, to see if you can find the LCD, because as you can see, all of these terms are kind of big, so it really doesn't make sense for you to go through the whole process of cross multiplying, because then you'll have a lot of big numbers. So if you look here, I have x plus 4 and 2x plus 8. If I divide this by 2, I could factor it out and I get x plus 4. So my main goal is to have a denominator of 2 times x plus 4, which is what this comes out to be here. Well, I have an x plus 4 and an x plus 4 in common here, so now pretty much all I have to do for them to have the same denominator is multiply a 2. So now I have 2x times 2 times x plus 4 in both denominators. So now I just have to concentrate on the numerators, which would be 2 times 3x plus 5x. Well, 2 times 3x is 6x, and 5x all over 2 times x plus 4. Now when I combine like terms, I get 11x over 2 times x plus 4, which means I don't really need to do anything else to this problem because I can't factor it. So now you have to always look at these adding or subtraction problems to see if they are factorable in the denominator. Looking at this one, we factor it, it's x minus 5, x plus 5. And when we factor this, it's x plus 5, x plus 1. So if we look here, both denominators have an x plus 5 in common, so that is going to be one piece of my LCD. Now, the right side has an x plus 1, and the left side has an x minus 5. So that means my LCD is going to be one of these, and then a combination of the other two. Because we now have nothing else in common, so we must combine everything together that's not in common. Well, if all three of these terms is my denominator, well, I have 2 out of the 3 terms on the left side. So in order for these 2 terms to match here, I have to multiply an x plus 1. And in order for me to match this denominator to this denominator, the only thing that's missing is an x minus 5. So I'm going to apply an x minus 5 by multiplying. So now I have the same denominator here as I have here. Same denominator. So once you have the same denominator when you're adding fractions, all you worry about is the numerator. So I'm going to distribute, and I get 4x plus 4. Distribute again, I get 6x minus 30. So now when I combine like terms, I get 10x minus 26 all over this long denominator. Now if you had decided to cross multiply, you would have had a lot of squares and cubes to deal with, and then it would have been really, really long to solve the problem. So once you see a trinomial means that you start with x squared and you have 3 terms. Once you have a trinomial in your denominator, see if you can factor, because if you can factor, you'll see that there are things in common, and then the other pieces just need to be multiplied in. Alright, next one we have is n squared plus 2n minus 15. Well, that factors to be n plus 5, n minus 3. Well, I have an n minus 3 here and here, so that means that these two are both in common, so the only missing thing that I'm missing is n plus 5. So I have it here on this fraction, so that means that must be my LCD. So I have an n plus 5 here, which means I need to multiply an n plus 5 to this fraction. And now that I've done that, both of these match. And once your denominators match, you just worry about your numerator. So now I'm going to distribute. Negative 2 times n is negative 2n, and negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, plus 2n. Now when I combine my like terms, negative 2n plus 2n winds up being equal to 0. And when it's equal to 0, I no longer need that, so I'm just left with negative 10. Now if you had decided to cross multiply this way, you have a lot of squares and cubes to worry about. Alright, in this section, remember we had to get our numerators and denominators to have the same fraction. So that means that I'm going to put a 1 here, and do the same cross multiplying that you guys are used to. So when you cross multiply, you get 1 times 3 and 2 times x. So that's 3 minus 2x. On this side, you get 4 times 3 and x times 1, which would give you 12 minus x. Now the next thing you're going to do is flip your denominator. When you flip your denominator, what you're going to do is bring it up and change your fraction bar, which is this thing, into multiplication. And now the final step will be to multiply from left to right. Well, since nothing crosses out, this will be your final answer. And you won't have to do anything else to the problem. Now you could, if you really wanted to be like mathematically correct, you could write it like this. But I will accept this answer. Alright, the next one, we have x plus 4 already on the top. X minus 4 already on the top. And I don't need to change the top. The bottom, I'm going to do the same thing. I need a common denominator. They have nothing in common, so I'm just going to put them together, and I'm going to cross multiply. 5 gets x minus 4, and 2 gets x plus 5. And I will just distribute. 2 times x plus 5 is 2x plus 10. 5 times x plus 4 is 5x plus 20. That's x minus 4, sorry. So it's 5x minus 20. So now combine your like terms. And you get 7x minus 10. Now remember I told you if anything is the same in the denominator, you can cancel them out. So this becomes a 1. So now when we rewrite it, it becomes 3 over 1 times your flipped fraction, which is x plus 5 over 7x minus 10. Since they have nothing in common, you just write what you have left. And that's your answer. Okay, the next one, you have a common denominator of x. So to x you're going to multiply x, to 6 you're going to multiply x, and to 7 you're going to multiply 1. So it creates a trinomial. And same thing on the bottom. To x you're going to multiply by x, to 10 you're going to multiply by x, and then to 21 you're going to multiply by 1, which gives you a trinomial. Now once you get a trinomial, factor it. Before you factor though, you see that we have these x's in common, so you can cancel them out. So now we are going to factor. Numbers that add up to 6 but multiply to 7 is x minus 7 and x plus 1. And numbers that add up to 10 and multiply to 21 will be, oops, I made a little boo-boo. Instead of x minus 7, x plus 1, it should have been x plus 7, x minus 1. And on the denominator, it's x plus 7 and x plus 3. And you notice we have 2 in common, so we can cancel out what we have in common and write what we have left. And there's our answer to the question. Alright, that concludes part 1. Part 1 went from 1 to 10, so it was half of the review sheet. So now I will pick back up on part 2 with 11 through 20. Good luck on tomorrow's test. Please watch this video and good luck.